I just got married, and I bought an old house with all my heart. I am going to start a new life with me wife. We've always dreamed of having a real home of our own. Now it has finally a dream come true. The house is far from the city center, in the suburbs. There's a dense forest around it. It has an old house, otherwise, we can't afford it. But even though it looks old, my wife and I like it very much. It should be good to decorate it. We spent a lot of time and energy to repair the house. We painted all the walls and replaced them with new furniture. We built a small garden behind the house. We started to dream of our future life. However, 2 weeks after we moved in, something strange began to happen. In this house, you can often hear strange sounds coming from the roof at night. But every time we go up to check, we can't find anything. So we had to put up with it. But the noise got louder and louder, and it is getting more and more frequent. It is driving people crazy. One night, we were about to go to bed. We heard a terrible sound coming from the roof. This time, the sound was even louder. It was like a wild beast's howl. My wife and I were surprised, but we couldn't help it. As the roar got louder and louder, suddenly, a long-haired woman-as ghost-like figure appeared in the roof of the bedroom. Her hair was swaying with her body. My wife and I were scared and screamed. We ran away from the bed. We couldn't even take care of our pants. But no matter where wet in the room, she followed us like a shadow. She wanted to run out of the house, but she couldn't find the exit at all. She kept turning around. Such a day lasted for several weeks. We were tortured to sleep and eat. The sweetness of the starry sky has been replaced by fear. We were trapped here and couldn't leave. Until that night, we were lying in bed. The figure of a ghost-like woman appeared again. This time, she looked even stronger. She was floating on our bed like that. Her weird hair was swaying with the wind. Her hands were coming to us. We seemed to be controlled by the power of the invisible. We couldn't move her at all. The next morning, someone found us. Our pupils were enlarged. We were bleeding. We were still lying in bed. From that day on, no one dared to live in that old house. People began to spread rumors that long-haired woman was still wandering in that old house. No matter who entered that house, he would die of gas. The legend of the long-haired female ghost spread like this. No one remembers the sweet time when a newly married couple spent there. If you see this woman, run quickly. I live in a community. The forest behind the community is a famous lost forest. Rumor has it that many people have never come out, so when people get here, they will hide far away and never dare to enter this forest. But I really enjoy the quietness and tranquility of the forest. I often go to the forest alone and never get lost or have any accidents. I don't know how those rumors came, so I started to suspect that those rumors were just nonsense. Until that day, I was walking alone in the forest as usual. Suddenly I saw a pink thing. I was scared. I walked in and found that it was a woman in a pink dress. At first, she just stood there and looked at me. I carefully walked over. I wanted to ask her if I needed any help, but I found this woman was very beautiful. Before I could speak, she reached out and pointed at me. I felt very strange, but I couldn't help but walk towards her. As I got closer, the way she reached out became faster and faster. When I got in front of her, I could finally appreciate that beautiful face. She suddenly shouted a scream. "Hurry up and catch her." The sound of the voice just fell. 4 men came out from the bushes. They came to me with a bandage and a rope. When I opened the bandage, they pulled out the rope and put it on my head. Fortunately, I've an exercise and have a flexible body. I ran away with a scream. After confirming that they didn't catch up with me, I called the police. The police took me. I was not sure to search the forest together. We walked for a long time near the place where the woman was standing. We found a small house with 6 men in it. They were all locked up within bones like a skeleton. After the police inquired, they found that they had been enslaved for 7 years according to the statement. This small house belonged to a doctor couple. They kidnapped people who passed by the forest and imprisoned them there. Like slaves, they were driven by them and helped them work. If someone disobeyed the order or ran away, they will be tied up and beaten or even killed directly. It is unimaginable how these people have been through all these years. They must have suffered a lot of inhuman torture. The reason why they can resist is that after the couple kidnapped them, they forced them to inject drugs. The drug will make their muscles shrink. Even strong men will become weak after being injected with the drug. They will become like the good friends, and the people who were kidnapped are far more than the 6 people who were saved. According to the statement of those rescued people, the couple killed 100 people. I have never experienced such a terrible event. I dare not enter that forest again. I don't know if the couple has fallen into the net for 10 years. I hope they have been arrested. But who knows? Maybe they are hiding deep in a forest to kidnap and enslave more victims. If you meet someone looking for help outside, you must be careful. My girlfriend met a terrible thing. About 2 weeks ago, she and her friend finished shopping at a convenience store and were lining up to pay the bill. At this time, a man with a bad figure walked up to them and praised his beautiful jacket. It must be very expensive. She said thank you. That man didn't take it seriously and said that his clothes were all cheap. But me girlfriend noticed that man was wearing various expensive rings and watches. I don't know what this man is up to. He said my girlfriend and her friend's family must be very rich. Dad and mom adore you very much. They can pay for all your expenses. My girlfriend felt this kind of company was very uncomfortable and has been trying to keep a distance from that man. The man asked them if they had a job. They said no. We are still in college. The man said he was doing charity and hired many homeless men to provide them with food. But my girlfriend and they still think this man is not a good man. This time the man finally revealed his purpose. He said his wallet was stolen and now needs 400 yuan. He asked my girlfriend if they could lend him some money and promised to pay him back. My girlfriend refused politely. At this time, she felt something was wrong, so she took her friend out of the convenience store and sat on the bench outside the convenience store to be arrested. They were discussing the strange man just now. Suddenly, they saw the man standing at Annalie and looking at his phone. Soon 2 more men appeared. The 3 of them discussed quietly for a while. The man in his suit went ahead, and the other 2 men rushed into the convenience store and took out a knife pointing at the receiver. My girlfriend and her friend were shocked to see the receiver raised his hands and opened their receiver and handed the cash to the 2 men. After the 2 men got it, they went out of the convenience store and went in the direction the man in a suit just left. My girlfriend was about to call the police, but she found that the receiver had already called the police. So they were waiting there for the police to come and told the police what they just saw and tried to help the police identify the robbers. I was thinking if this kind of organized crime is a common phenomenon. Those people spend money to find some homeless people to help them rob. Then they can go and rob. So when you meet some people who pretend to be poor and kind to ask you for help, you should keep an eye on them. Your kindness can be reflected in many other ways. There is a very beautiful girl in our school, but the rumors about her are not so beautiful. Everyone said that all the man who dated her, but she was not called by the police, because there is no evidence to show that she. With these terrible rumors about her, no matter how beautiful she looks, no one dares to get close to her. But one day, she suddenly asked me out. I am not rich and I don't look like a boy, but there is also a beautiful woman who voluntarily asked me out. I was a little surprised. I asked her why she wanted to ask me out. She said she wanted to go to a place with me. In the end, I still agreed. Gradually, I found that I fell in love with her. About those rumors, I have already convinced myself in my heart, because since I have been dating her, nothing terrible has happened. I started to think that hose must be nonsense. We are happy when we are together. Then one day she asked me, "Do you want to go to heaven?" I was shocked and said, "What are you talking about?" She replied, "I am not talking nonsense. I told you before that the place I really want to go with you is heaven. If you agree, let us go together." I am not kidding. I looked at her eyes. It's really not like a joke. I panicked all of a sudden. I asked her why. She said, "I have been praying to God to give us a happy home. I have got the answer. I heard God say that He has prepared a home for us in heaven. If we go there together, we can live happily there forever." After saying that, he gave me a drink. I could think of what it was with my toes, so I got up and ran. He was still shouting behind me, "We are already citizens of heaven. Don't run. This is a madman." I blocked his number. I never contacted him again. But a few weeks later, I received a call from police. He said he was arrested. A man drank a glass of wine he gave him. After it died, he put on a white shirt for the man. When the police arrived at the scene, he knelt beside the body and prayed. After seeing that bliss, He was very excited to tell the police that my boyfriend had gone to heaven. The police arrested him on the spot. He shouted at the police, "I didn't He didn't He is in heaven now. God told me that he had prepared a home for us in heaven. If you don't believe me, go there and see." What I said is true. I had a problem since I was a kid. As long as I enter a space where there is no one, I always feel that someone is hiding inside. There will be a kind of inexplicable fear. So every time I go to the bathroom, I will say one sentence. "I see you. I am afraid someone is hiding inside. Give me an emergency." As time goes by, as the age grows, it has become my habit. When I enter the empty room, when I get off work and go home, when I go to the bathroom to take a shower. In short, as long as it is a place where no one is, whether I see someone or not, I will say one sentence first. "I see you." On a weekend when I was 18 years old, my parents were going to a wedding with a good friend. I was the only one left in the family. I had a feeling of letting go of myself. It is a pity that I don't have many friends. Otherwise, I can call a few friends to come to my house to play, so I can only eat and drink recklessly. I watched movies and play games. I was also very happy. On the other hand, I even experienced a part-time delivery man. I also earned a lot of tips. At about 8 o'clock in the evening, I finished work and went home. I saw an unknown car parked on the sidewalk in front of my house. At first, I thought it was a neighbor's car, but then I thought, isn't there a parking space in the neighbor's house? It shouldn't have parked the car in front of my house. Although I felt very strange in my heart, I didn't take it seriously. When I got home, I used to say, "I saw you," so I quickly changed my work uniform and put on my pajamas to take a shower. After taking a shower and lying on the sofa, I felt that something was staring at me. I thought of the strange car outside the house. An inexplicable sense of tension began to surround me. My parents were not at home. I started to worry a little. I didn't care about it first. I haven't eaten anything since this afternoon, so I went downstairs to the kitchen and heated some food. After eating, I went back to the living room and used to say, "I saw you." Then I turned on the TV and started looking for a favorite show. Suddenly, a huge figure was moving behind the curtain. I was shocked. I didn't dare to move or make any sound. I got goosebumps. I couldn't think anymore. I didn't know what to do next. The figure behind the curtain began to move again. The curtain slowly opened. A man in black appeared in front of me. His head tilted to one side and glared at me coldly. His face was full of evil, with a strange smile. His mouth was full of blood and he was drooling a little. Suddenly, he spoke in a low voice. He said, "I saw you, too." Then he pointed at me with a big knife. I ran away with a reflex. He immediately followed me and chased after me. I rushed to the door and opened the door. Ran out without looking back. It was raining heavily outside, and it was dark all around. Only a faint streetlight shone on the street. I remember there was a neighbor in the opposite house, so my first reaction was to go there for help. I ran to his door. I knocked on the door hard. My fingers and joints were bleeding. I looked back in panic. The man in black was standing in the middle of the road. He didn't chase after me anymore. He stood there and kept smiling at me, as if he was telling me, "You can run away." Suddenly, the door opened. I rushed in without saying a word. I closed the door immediately. I didn't have time to explain to the neighbor. After entering the house, I looked outside, but the man who was still standing on the street disappeared without a trace. I finally escaped and saved my life. Then I kept thinking, if I hadn't said that I saw you when I entered the room, what would have happened? Every time I think of the past, I get goosebumps. I don't know where the man is hiding. I am waiting for the next target. 2 years ago, I married the most gentle and most handsome man in the world. I once thought I might be the happiest woman in the world, but I didn't expect that behind all this happiness was a terrible hell. After the wedding, we had a sweet time every day. Then one morning, I found my eyes cold and open. My face was very uncomfortable. I sat up screaming. I felt something sticky on my face. My eyes, nose and mouth were everywhere. I closed my eyes and saw a man holding something and smiling. I was scared. I shouted, "What are you doing?" Then he said, "Honey, I am applying honey to you. It can make your skin better. I pushed him away. The honey flowed into my eyes, nose and mouth, everywhere. I couldn't see clearly. It was hard to breathe. I ran to the bathroom to wash my face. But before I finished, he called me for breakfast again. Then he took the bread and stuffed it in my mouth. He kept stuffing it. My throat was choked. I couldn't swallow it or breathe. I screamed, but he didn't mean to stop. He kept stuffing the bread in my mouth. I vomited the bread and ran out. Then the phone rang. It was the heart-throbbing daily routine I had before. He was apologizing to me on the table, but I wanted to forgive him. Soon I fainted. When I woke up again, I was lying in the hospital. I saw my husband shaking his shoulder next to me as if he was crying, but I observed for a while and found out that he wasn't crying but lying. For a while, I couldn't understand. I didn't know why I was lying in the hospital. I didn't know how he found me. I didn't even know which hospital I was in. He said it was the heart-throbbing daily routine we had before. He could see my distance and footprints at any time. He could even see my phone usage. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't know where to find you. Dear, I am sorry. This joke is a little too much. But he opened his mouth again. His voice became cold and said, "You fainted. I can't play with you anymore. Dear, next time if you think you can hold on and want to faint, you must tell me in advance. I can let you take a break." That ass when I realized why I was lying in the hospital and yelled at him angrily. "What kind of nerve did you have just now? Like a madman." He was silent for a while. Then he said, "It has been 3 years. I've been waiting for this day. I don't understand what I said." But when I saw his face, I was shocked. I cried my eyes out and yelled at him again. I wanted to call the police, but he suddenly jumped up and covered my mouth and said, "Do you know how happy I am now? You'd better not disturb me. Don't ruin my mood." Then he held me tightly with his arm so that I couldn't move. Suddenly he grabbed my hands again and said, "Since the first time I saw you, I've been thinking how to play with you happily. I've thought about a lot of ideas. Now I finally have a chance. In the past, in order to catch up with you, I confessed my love to you every day. I persisted for 365 days. We got 314 love rewards. Whatever I do, I think about you first and meet all your needs. Now it is different. Now we remarried. Thank you for marrying me. Now it is time for you to fulfill my wish." I cried in shock. How could this be? How could I marry such a person? Why? Why on earth? He smiled and rubbed my face and licked my tears. He said in a low voice, "You are a person who loves to smile. You always have a smile on your face. I hate it. So from now on, I want to be able to make you happy. You will spend every day of your life in tears. Your tears are the most delicious thing to me." Then he left crazily. I was angry and spat on his face. He finally let go and held my hand to wipe his face. I jumped off the bed and rushed out of their room and ran straight to the police station. I begged the police not to let him get close to Megan. Then I immediately carried out the divorce procedure. I can finally leave him and slowly return to normal life. I didn't know until a long time later that before I married that man, he had been married 3 times, and all 3 of his ex-wives committed. When I recalled the day I divorced him, he took out a Barbie doll from his pocket and tied a rope around his neck. He picked up the toy doll and said to me, "What a pity. I wanted you to be this cute doll." At that time, I finally realized what he wanted was a toy and not a person to live with. It was from that time that I really began to feel that sometimes humans are more terrible than demons. So everyone has to be careful. Those who look like humans are actually demons in their hearts. Now, it is also possible that I don't know if you were bullied by young people in society when you were young. In our place, there used to be a lot of unemployed young people every day. They blocked the way near the junior high school to stop the students from going home and force them to pay for living expenses. Junior high school students have no ability to resist. They can only give money obediently. If you don't have money, you can avoid getting beaten. I was still in elementary school at that time. Almost every day, I was stopped by young people in society around me to ask for money. They always gathered in small alleys in groups of 3 or 5. Those who blocked the way, especially those who asked for money, were the most helpless. That alley is the only way home. I can't get around if I want to. Every time I can only hand over the little pocket money I don't have. One day, I really couldn't stand it. I said with a firm attitude, I have no money. I want to give you money. Why? Then I was beaten. I cried all the way home. The grievances and anger in my heart and the pain on my body made me want to explode. I was thinking about revenge, but I was young and weak. I really didn't have the ability to fight them. Then I saw a flyer on the ground. It said, "Contact us. Use dark force to defeat all your enemies." What a coincidence. I was thinking how to deal with those gangsters. Out of curiosity, of course, I was also eager to revenge. I dialed the number on the flyer. The phone was quickly connected. I asked curiously, "What does the advertisement on your flyer mean?" The person on the phone said, "We provide a punishment service. I am more interested in helping you punish anyone you want to punish." So I hung up the phone and followed the address on the flyer. Zhang Xinjiang went there and pushed the door open. There were 2 rows of skyscrapers in front of me. Maybe it was my illusion. I saw those skyscrapers suddenly turn their heads and look at me. I was so scared that I fell to the ground. When I stood up and looked around again, I found that those skyscrapers were back to normal again. They were standing still. I was thinking, there is really something. This is the person sitting in the main hall behind a big table speaking. What you see and what you can see are all true. I rushed to him and said, I want to punish some people. What should I do? He handed me a flyer. At the same time, once the service is confirmed, no matter what happens, it has nothing to do with me. Do you accept it? I didn't hesitate at all and said, yes. Then I looked at the flyer, like the menu. It lists all kinds of monsters and corresponding service prices. There are 3 heads of hounds, 5 heads of snake demons, and dozens of different types of monsters. The summoning cost of each monster is different. Even the dead god has it. But the cost is very high. I asked with a trembling voice, can even the dead god be summoned? He said yes. But once the dead god is summoned, whatever he does or doesn't he do, it is not up to us. It is all up to him. I stared at the flyer and started to think. Maybe I was hesitating. He said, if you can make up your mind, you can find a low-level mythical beast to experience first. Finally, I chose a stone monster. Then he chanted a spell. Not long after, the room suddenly became dark. A loud monster-esque voice came out. A huge stone monster appeared in front of me. He grabbed my neck and lifted me into the air. I gritted my teeth in pain and let me go. Demon smiled and said, do you believe it now? It is all true. Then he chanted a spell again. The stone monster disappeared like smoke. I fell to the ground and signed a contract with him. After signing the contract, he said, if you need anything, call me anytime. Highly summon the devil for you right away. A few days later, I saw those ghosts gathering in the alley again. I secretly hid behind them and called the man. He casually casted his spell. Not long after, Feely began to darken. Then I heard those ghosts screaming desperately. I took a sneak peek. The stone monster grabbed their necks and threw them one by one crazily to the ground. Some people tried to escape and were stepped on by the stone monster. The alley was full of screaming and shrieking. I was shocked, too. Not long after, the passerby heard their screams and called the police. When the police arrived, those ghosts had been scared to death and were lying on the ground panting. The police guessed that they must have had a fight, but they said they were attacked by monsters. The police wouldn't believe it and sent them to the ambulance. Those ghosts were sent to the hospital for intensive treatment. Most of their bones and organs were damaged to different degrees. They not only had to undergo surgery, they also had to undergo psychotherapy. Because they kept saying they saw monsters, I never saw them again. They appeared in that alley. I took a sneak peek. On the one hand, the evil power of Thesamin really helped me. More importantly, no one knew I did it. I am a reporter with a small reputation. One day in 2020, I received a call from a friend. He said that a convicted murderer had just been transferred to a nearby prison. He will stay there until he is executed. He was accused of a very terrible crime. But like most criminals, he has always claimed to be innocent. He blamed all the crimes on the so-called mountain demon. My friend thought it was strange, so he suggested that I come and interview him. I wrote a newspaper article. He also arranged the time for the detective interview. After listening to him, I was also very interested in this matter, so I went. The first time I met him, I thought he was a little strange, so I chose to listen to him. He looked very innocent and desperate. I think if he really has a grudge, I need to help him. Maybe I can save him from death. He told me an absurd but scary story. He is a miner who works on a mine at the border of a certain place. There are 5 people in their team who are mainly responsible for digging tunnels. That day, they were tasked to explore the new mine tunnel and find more iron ore. There are many other miners in the tunnel who are working on production. It is pitch black inside. The miners can only rely on the headlights on their helmets to light up. Exploring new mines is dangerous, so they let the robots out first to assess the overall situation of the mine. Soon they found that most of the walls on the tunnel were very hard stones. They had to use special digging methods, otherwise it was impossible to complete the task within the specified time. After further inspection, they finally found a relatively soft wall, so they decided to start digging from here. The digging work began to develop steadily. Some were responsible for digging and opening, some were responsible for pulling and transporting. At first, the work was going very well. Suddenly, they dug through a wall. A new mine appeared in front of them. Everyone was very excited and rushed to go up to take a closer look. But they found that there were many animal skeletons around the newly excavated mine. There were insects crawling on bones. The air inside was humid. It was full of the smell of death. Suddenly, a series of terrible screams came from all sides of the tunnel. At that moment, the miners began to panic. They scattered and began to look for an exit. But in fear, they lost their way like headless flies. The tunnel in the mine was like an ant's cave. They didn't even know which way the exit was. Had grabbed a worker who was in a hurry to escape. Let him calm down, send a signal, and let the other workers stay calm. Dante run away. But in the chaos, the workers only cared about their own escape. They couldn't organize themselves at all. At this time, he saw a worker running towards him. They continued to run for a while. Suddenly, they saw a light in front of them. This could be an exit, but the sound of the monster screaming behind them was getting closer and closer. The sound was getting louder and louder. It kept echoing throughout the cave. After running for a while and the light in front of him, he found something wrong. It wasn't the light of the exit. It was the unknown terrible monster. In order to attract them closer, it created an illusion. Serene now, a terrible creature appeared in front of them. It showed sharp teeth and claws. They were scared. They were running away and screaming for help, but the beast was chasing after them. They knew they couldn't stop at this moment, but a worker fainted. He was caught by the monster immediately. He died on the spot, but he couldn't save the worker. He could only watch the worker being torn apart by this terrible monster. The only thing he could do was to escape as soon as possible. Suddenly, there was a loud noise behind him. He turned around and saw another worker following him with scars all over his body. He said he was also attacked by the monster, but God bless him. He managed to escape from the monster's claws, but his leg was badly injured. Just when the worker was about to continue talking, he covered the worker's mouth with a stick. He tried to keep the worker quiet. He noticed that the monster was nearby. He was looking for them with his nose. He was very experienced. He knew the exit must be around here, but the monster was too close. They had to find a way to distract the monster, so they could escape in time. Then he thought, there was an angry robot in his backpack. He quickly put down the robot and pressed the remote control. The monster was indeed distracted. He began to chase the robot. They also ran away in time, but the monster was too fast. He soon found their track. He turned around and chased them. While running away, he found a closed tunnel door. Hack knew the only chance to escape now was to open this door. So he opened the iron door and started smashing it. But when the local door was broken, it caused a landslide. He was lucky to escape, but the worker behind him was not so lucky. The rock began to roll like a snowstorm and buried the worker in it. He finally escaped. He hurried to find help. After listening to his story, I think what he said may be true, because in process of his story, I have been paying attention to his expression and emotional change. In the memory event, he was very scared. He was sweating. That was obviously a fear of terrible terror. I can see the sweat on his forehead and the trembling expression on his face. He didn't lie. He began to believe what he said. Then I contacted my friend. I wanted to ask him if he had any more information about this case. He told me the reason why the miner was convicted was because a camera recorded the miners fleeing in the cave. The video shows that the miner pushed the worker back into the collapsed cave. With such evidence, it's almost impossible to get away with it. Everyone accused him of using Esheval to cause a landslide that caused the cave to collapse and kill the workers. And when the bodies of the workers were dug out by the rescue team, there was no sign of being attacked by the so-called mountain monster. The police can only speculate that he killed and bribed a monster that didn't exist at all to push the blame on the monster and try to get rid of himself. So what happened at that day? One thing is for sure. When the miners entered the mine scene, they didn't bring cameras at all. No cameras were set up in the cave. Did someone fake the evidence? Or was there another hidden story? There must be more to this story. As a senior reporter, I also encountered inexplicable things. Every night I was thinking if there really was a kind of unidentified mutated creature. I saw him was when many people had a dream experience. It was lying in bed and feeling very awake, but I couldn't move. I could see something in my eyes. There was a huge bang in my ear. I felt fear for no reason. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I am sure you've all experienced this before. In academia, this symptom is called sleep paralysis. It's also called ghost bed. I don't remember how many times I've had nightmares and woken up in bed and felt very awake. I know my eyes are open and I am looking around in my room, but I can't move my body. It feels like I am being crushed by a giant rock. I am trapped in my own body and I can't even call for help. And then I saw a strange figure I've never seen before in the room. Standing in the corner, I wasn't sure if it was a shadow caused by the light or something else. But the shadow began to move slightly. I found that it was clearly a figure. Although I have experienced this kind of situation many times, it was the first time I saw an unknown figure in the dark. I felt my body rising rapidly and trying to move my body, but no matter how hard I tried, my body still wouldn't move. The shadow was getting closer to me. Fear became panic. Although I didn't know if I could make a sound, I still tried my best to call for help. Suddenly, the room was lit up. My parents rushed in. My mom asked me nervously what happened. My dad was holding a baseball bat. I finally got up from the bed and looked at the corner of the room, but there was nothing empty either. Was everything just a dream? I breathed out and told my parents that there was a strange figure. The nightmare made my bed wet with sweat. My mom asked me angrily if the nightmare was getting worse and worse. I nodded. They knew that since the car accident happened when I was 4 years old, I had been having nightmares. That year, when I was in the car with my grandparents, there was a traffic accident. My grandparents stopped breathing in front of me. My face was covered with blood and I cried so hard. Although I didn't understand what happened when I was 4 years old, that psychological shadow grew stronger. Over the years, the scene of that day circled in my dream, and every time I woke up from a nightmare, there would be a ghost-like bad. My mom said she would take me to the psychologist for a checkup. I agreed. Since the accident, I have been seeing the psychologist regularly, but I think the effect of the treatment is very limited. When I came to the hospital, the doctor and I were all old acquaintances. He enthusiastically said, "You Ray here, long time no see. How are you doing recently?" The tone of his voice was still the same as when he was a little boy a few years ago. I was a little uncomfortable. I sat down and told him about the recent nightmare. He was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. According to him, for children, those nightmares will gradually disappear as they age. He was very opposed to drug interference, so when I was still a child, he was always talking about treatment and psychological intervention. After listening to my description, he said, "Although I have always tried to stop you from taking those psychotropic drugs, but now you are an adult. Maybe it is time to take the next treatment plan. That means you are going to prescribe me a drug." I asked him what kind of drug it was and whether it would have side effects. He said it was just some mild antidepressants. If it can get your sleep under control and ensure effective sleep, your nightmares should disappear slowly. Sleep paralysis will also disappear together, but it takes time and you can rush it, and you have to remember to have a good rest. If there is no side effect, we will continue to take it. After that, he prescribed me a prescription. Although I also have little confidence in drugs, I can only count on him now. That night, I took the first drug and hoped I could have a good sleep. Then I really went into deep sleep. It seems that this kind of antidepressants can not only help me get rid of nightmares, but also help me improve my sleep. I felt like I was in an infinite darkness, in an empty environment. There is no weight, only infinite tranquility. My senses are unusually clear. I even forgot I was sleeping. I want to stay in this peaceful, empty space, but I still have to wake up. Although I didn't have a nightmare, but when I opened my eyes and found that my body couldn't move, sleep paralysis still occurred. Clear consciousness is frozen in the body that can't move, but it is much better than before. At least there is no fear after waking up from a nightmare. I just can't move, but my heart is very calm. As long as I can sleep well, it is worth it. Then I looked around the room and wanted to judge what time it is now, but I saw again the shadow standing in the corner is closer than last time. I can see its human form. I was calling for help in my heart, but I felt like I could only make a hoarse sound. My parents should be asleep. I think no one can hear my voice. The shadow is getting closer again. I was shocked since I sat up, but after I woke up completely, I found there was nothing in the corner. I took a look at the time. It has just passed 3 a.m. This means I have to keep sleeping. Although the scene just now is a bit strange, I didn't have a nightmare. I am not so resistant when I had breakfast in the morning. My mother asked me how I was sleeping. I told my mother that I slept well last night. Although there was sleep paralysis, I saw some strange things, but I didn't have a nightmare. My mother was surprised and said it was great. Then she looked at me and said, "Why are you not happy at all?" I said, "It is because of that strange figure. I can feel it every time in front of my eyes, but when I woke up, there was nothing." My mother comforted me and said, "Sometimes our brains like to lie to us, especially when we are tired, and hallucinations is also a normal phenomenon of sleep paralysis. So don't worry, take your medicine on time, have a good rest, and you'll be fine soon." Another night fell. I took the medicine and lied on the bed. I soon fell into that empty space again. I felt that missile left my body and was free. It was another deep sleep. There was no nightmare, no fear. When I felt that my soul returned to my body, I was paralyzed again on the bed. This time, I went straight to the corner of the bedroom. Sure enough, the shadow was closer than before. I could only see a silhouette of a human being this time. It suddenly became more specific. It was a human-shaped monster. It was twisted very unnaturally, tall and thin. There were many joints. It was getting closer to me again. Every step forward accompanied the sound of a thorn and the smell of rot. I used all my strength and will to move my body. First a finger, then an arm. Finally, I endured the great pain and sat up. Unexpectedly, it was just an illusion. The monster disappeared again. I was unwilling to check the corners of the room, but I got nothing. I kept telling myself even so. It was better than having a nightmare every night. I need to continue to take medicine and cooperate with the treatment. Later every night, I took the medicine on time. Every night, I would fall into the semi-unconscious space. I drifted farther and farther, but no matter how deep I slept, I would wake up every night and enter a state of paralysis. I watched the unknown creature approach me. One night was closer than the other. Within a few days, I could already feel its damp breath on my face and the sound of its fingers creaking. But its face was still shrouded in darkness. All I could see was the huge, long, passionate palm. The skin on the palm was burnt, with deep scars, and bleeding. Blood dripped on the floor. It was only a few centimeters away from my face. The foul smell of the nose stimulated me to sit up. In an instant, the monster disappeared again. I panicked and became angry. I jumped off the bed, opened all the windows, and any place where I could hide. I checked again and again. When I checked the bottom of the bed, I could feel something damp wiping my feet. It was blood, and some smelly liquid. These must be real. That means the monster was real, too. I panicked again and told my parents to let me live with me grandparents for a few days, but they still thought it was an illusion. They told me there was no way to escape. They took me to the psychologist again. I told the doctor in a hurry. I know it sounds crazy, but it is true. It is really true. Of course, the doctor wouldn't believe me. He just told me to take my medicine on time. No one believed me, and no one could really help him, so I decided not to sleep and to keep myself awake until there was a more reliable way. The first day went well. I didn't sleep all night, and I could still hold it. But after 2 or 3 days, I couldn't hold it anymore. When I was still cooking coffee in the kitchen, I fell asleep unconsciously and began to drift in endless void. Then I was pushed back to reality again and found myself lying on the floor off the kitchen and unable to move. The monster was closer to me. I could finally see his face clearly. His face was very small and his face was black. His teeth were sharp and there were many small holes in each small hole. There was something like a bug moving around. He whispered in my ear with a strange voice. Although I was very scared, I was so sleepy that I didn't even have the energy anyway. I couldn't move and couldn't avoid it. I just closed my eyes and let myself sleep soundly and did whatever I wanted to do. But nothing happened later. I finally knew that if the next time you wake up and find that you have insomnia, you can close your eyes and pretend that nothing happened. Even if there is anything terrible, he will also feel bored and leave by himself. I found out was at 3 a.m. I couldn't sleep, so I lit a cigarette on the balcony and saw all the lights on the opposite building were off. Only the light off the house opposite my house was on. I could vaguely see a man and a woman standing opposite each other. I saw them arguing. I could hear some screams. Suddenly, that man picked up the woman and threw her off the balcony with a terrible scream. The woman fell to the ground heavily. I heard a scream. I hurriedly leaned on the railing and looked down. The woman was already lying in the blood on cement floor. I looked at the man again. The man was also lying on the railing and looking down. When he raised his head, I was shocked. He found that I had seen his murder. He wouldn't let me go. But what I am worried about now is something even more unbelievable. That man looked exactly like me. I was shocked and breathed heavily. The man seemed to have noticed this as well and was looking at me in shock. He shouted at me, but I couldn't hear what he was shouting. I couldn't believe there was someone who looked exactly like me and was a murderer. I fell to the ground directly. My wife was sleeping in the bedroom. She heard the sound and ran out. She called me and asked what had happened. I told her what I had seen. She was also shocked. Then she went to the balcony to take a look. I pulled her tightly and told her not to go out. The murderer must be staring at our room. Then hid behind the curtain and shook my hand to call the police. Not long after, the police arrived, but they didn't find the body of the woman who was thrown downstairs. Not only that, when they came to search, there was still a man and a woman in the opposite room. They were safe. The police beat me up and said, "How could this happen?" I was stunned. My wife told me that I had been under because of the promotion exam. What I saw may not be true. Maybe it was just a hallucination. I firmly said it was impossible. I saw it with my own eyes. That man threw a woman down from the balcony. I also saw the corpse downstairs. Her skull was broken, and the sound of her falling on the ground was so loud. How could it be me hallucination? My wife patiently told me, "You know I have a shallow sleep. A little movement will wake me up. If there was really such a loud noise, how could I not hear it? Okay, don't think too much. Calm down and drink a cup of water." After that, my wife gave me a cup of warm green tea. I often drink this tea during this period of time. Because I was diagnosed with liver and kidney problems as a nurse's wife, I said that drinking this tea would help me recover. Since then, the scene of that night has been deeply imprinted in my mind. For a long time, I had been having the same nightmare. I dreamed of a face that looked exactly like me. A woman asked corpse what was that man shouting at me. 7 years later, my liver and kidney problems were already very serious. I almost lost my normal function. Life was also severely disturbed. It all started 7 years ago when I witnessed that murder. I stood in front of the mirror and looked at myself in the mirror. Suddenly, there was a person who looked exactly like me but with a different expression and action. I was not sure if it was an illusion or something else. I didn't have the energy to struggle. I was depressed every day. My wife was sad and said and often cried secretly. But she didn't give up on me. She often took me to the hospital where she worked. I often couldn't help thinking that if I died, I would leave my poor wife alone. I couldn't bear her beautiful eyes, soft hair, gentle voice and the tea she made for me. When I think of this, my heart hurts. With the worsening of the disease, I can't work anymore. After losing my job, the burden of raising a family fell on my wife. For the little overtime she had to work overtime. I felt sorry for my wife, but I couldn't help it. Most of the time I could only lie in bed and do nothing. One day, my wife didn't come back. I started to have serious abdominal pain again. I had to bear the pain and find the medicine, but I found that I ran out of the medicine at home. But now I am really in pain. Suddenly, every time my wife drank the tea for me, I felt better. So I went to the kitchen to find the tea again. I was busy with work before, and now I am lying in bed all day. I haven't been in the kitchen, Mick. I don't know. I searched everywhere for a bag of tea, and only this bag I quickly soaked a little. But as soon as I took a sip, I was shocked. This taste is completely different from the green tea and tea that it. I had to look for it again in all kinds of cabinets. I found a bottle of car antidote in the corner of a cabinet. I was very surprised. Why is the car antidote in the kitchen? And I've never seen this brand of antidote. This is not what I used in my car. This is when I suddenly thought of a few days ago after I entered the kitchen. I was pulled out by my wife mysteriously. I thought of my wife's strange behavior, plus the bottle in front of me so deep antidote I can't help but get cold. I have a bad feeling. I shook my hands in the freshly brewed tea and dropped a few drops of antidote. I took a sip and tasted it. The taste is really the same as what I usually drink. Has my wife been giving me this for so long? This thing is deadly. Before my wife came back, I went to another hospital for a checkup. The doctor was very surprised. He explained that my liver and kidneys were severely damaged due to a long-term intake of something containing antiperspirant. This component is very common in car antidote. The doctor went on to say that due to the long-term intake, many other organs in your body were also destroyed. Even the central nervous system was also severely damaged and there was no way to recover. After hearing the doctor's diagnosis, I was shocked. This is what happened in the hospital where my wife worked for countless times and never got the result. I was confused. I asked the doctor if it was possible that some hospitals or doctors couldn't get this result. The doctor said firmly that your symptoms were so obvious, as long as you have a thorough checkup, any hospital can find out. Now I am even more sure that my wife and the doctor who gave me a checkup must be lying to me. Thinking of this, my heart was heavy. That night, my wife came back from work and brought me a cup of green tea. I know what it is. I told her I don't know how to drink it. Go take a shower first. After confirming that she was in the changing room, I secretly poured the green tea into the sink and hid behind the door. I found that my wife was on the phone with someone. She said quietly not to worry. She would die in 2 or 3 months at most. I gave her a high death insurance. As long as Shetties, we can live a good life. Thank you for waiting for me for such a long time. Baby, see you tomorrow. My wife's words were like lightning. I was terrified and covered my mouth with my hands. I hurried back to the bedroom. It turned out that my body was getting weaker day by day. Until now, I can only wait for death. It is all my wife's trick. And it is also the trick of conspiring with others. She has been planning my death for a long time. She also bought me a high death insurance and waited for me to die. With the compensation, I lived a happy life with her lover. I lay in bed like a dead man. I was so angry that I was going to kill myself. My wife had already taken a shower. As soon as she entered the bedroom, I quickly closed my eyes and pretended to sleep. I heard her moving the cup on the table. It seemed to check if I had drunk that cup of tea. What a snake woman. After a while, I heard her deep breathing. She should have fallen asleep. The person I love has become a vicious person who wants to kill me. Lying next to her, I got goosebumps and sat down depressed. What should I do? I can't just wait for death. Should I call the police immediately? Or collect evidence first? I thought about it. In the end, I chose the stupidest way. I decided to make a direct negotiation with her and ask her face to face. At 10 a.m., I woke her up from her dream and called her to the living room. My wife, half asleep and half awake, looked confused. I said with great resentment, I love you with all my heart in this life, but why do you want me to die? This straightforward question made my wife panic, but she said innocently right away, Honey, what are you talking about? I said, I already know. The tea you've been drinking for me and the motorhome motive are just trying to kill me without any evidence. She still had an innocent look on her face and insisted that she didn't know what I was talking about. I told her, Don't pretend to be innocent. If I call the police now and let the police check your phone record, what will you find? For a moment, she was like being stabbed in the pain and no longer pretending. Suddenly, she showed a strange and terrible expression and said, "You're really not a good husband. You used to work like a dog. I've been ignored by you for a long time. I don't want to be with you anymore," I said helplessly. "Then you can tell me. If it doesn't work, we can get a divorce." "You don't have to kill me," she said greedily. "It's not that simple. After the divorce, how can I live on my salary? I need your compensation." "Don't hate me. Just take it as you've been ignoring my compensation for so long. Anyway, you're going to die. At least the living should live well. You said, right? You said you love me wholeheartedly. Then you should give me some guarantee after you die. What kind of crazy speech is this?" Her words made me even angrier. I grabbed her throat hard. She was struggling with a slap on my face. This made me completely crazy. I've completely lost control. I hugged her and rushed to the balcony and threw her out. She screamed and fell from the 11th floor. Then she cried out loud. I was shocked to lie on the railing and look down. My wife had fallen to death. There was a pile of mud on the ground downstairs. I suddenly realized how this was so similar to the scene I saw on the balcony 7 years ago. It's just that I turned from a witness to a murderer. When I thought about it, I looked up and looked across. Sure enough, on the same floor opposite me, there was a man who looked exactly like me. Isan taught me from 7 years ago. I tried my best to shout at him, but the sound couldn't get at all. It soon dissipated in the air. I finally knew what the man from 7 years ago was shouting at me. He was shouting, "Your wife wants to hurt you. Don't trust her. Get out of here."